Good evening, you're watching cnbc TV 18 and this is After the Bell. Let's take a look at the top headlines that we are tracking at this hour. The Wall Street witnesses a powerful surge. Nifty reclaims 10,400, Sensex ends above 34,700. Banks and NBFCs see massive rallies. Mid-cap index closes 63 points higher, posting the biggest one-day gain ever. The pause in the dollar rally helps the rupee strengthen as the centre battles to shore up the Indian currency. A government official says that NRI bonds are always an option, says that the Prime Minister will take the final call. India and Iran are yet to reach an agreement on payment mechanism and choice of currency for oil imports. Sources say that Iran has sought bank guarantee in euros to operate the Chabar port project. China seeks deeper cooperation with India in its fight against USA's trade protectionism, says joining hands against American bullying will lead to a win-win outcome for both countries, tells USA to stop interfering in Indo-China ties. Chairman of the newly appointed Board of IL&FS, Uday Kotak, meets Corporate Affairs Secretary Injeti Srinivas, apprises him of the decisions taken at the board's first meeting. Supreme Court seeks details of the government's decision-making process in the Rafale deal but refuses to issue a notice to the government and stops short of seeking details about pricing or suitability of the fighter jets. Tata Sons set to oversee a leadership reshuffle at AirAsia India. Sources say Chairman S. Ramudrai is set to step down and Badmali Agarwal will replace him. Sunil Bhaskaran set to become the new Chief Executive Officer. Well, bulls made a powerful comeback on the Wall Street as indices saw a massive rally on short covering bounce. Nifty jumped more than 1.5% to regain the 10,450 mark. Sensex rallied more than 450 points. Broader markets outperformed. Bank Nifty saw the biggest gain in absolute terms since October 2017. Index rallied about 200 points. Midcap saw the biggest one-day gain ever, with the index rallying more than 650 points. Anuj Singhal joining in with a wrap of today's trading action. Anuj, how sustainable is this bounce? Bulls seem to be in a good mood today.
Stunning move for the market today, especially on the financials. There was just a one-way rally. The market trapped a lot of shorts. There was some value buying. The mid-cap index was up 4%. Huge rally. Today it was all about financials. Yes, there were other stocks as well, but you have Bajaj Finance and Finserv up 10%, Axis was up 6%, SBI, Yes Bank, ICICI Bank. Across the board, massive buying in financials. Other index gainers today included names like Eicher Motors, Z Entertainment, Titan, HPCL, Adani Ports and UPL. IT stocks were seeing some profit taking, so names like Infosys, HCL Tech and TCS were down. In the FNO space, Adani Power was your top gainer, up 30%. But there were a lot of gains, once again dominated by financial, DHFL, Shriram Transport, Piramal Enterprises, Equitas, M&M Financial, and other names as well like Just Dial, MRPL. All in all, a powerful move. Let's see if this can continue. Tomorrow is, of course, the weekly options expiry. We'll see if this move can extend for a bit more.
All right, Anuj, thanks for that. But from equity to Mint Street now, the Indian currency is holding its position against the dollar today. Rupee started trading at 74.15 today versus yesterday's close of 74.39 per US dollar and is now trading just above the 74 mark at 74.17. Now, rupee's overall depreciation has meant that the government has been keeping tabs on how to assist the currency. A government official has told us that the centre is brainstorming several options that could lift the falling rupee, including issuance of NRI bonds. Sapna Das, who broke that story, is here with the details. Sapna, are the options that the government can consider at this junction?
Senior government officials continue to maintain that NRI bonds or NRI deposits is always an option. In fact, this is a consistent statement that has been coming from the Finance Ministry during the last 2 to 3 months, because at this stage, no government would like to rule out any option that would be necessary or may be taken in order to contain, the exchange rate or to give support in any other way to the market. So clearly, NRI bonds continues to be an option. Only point here is that, how immediate is the requirement? I suppose the government will take a very calibrated call on that front. Also, let's keep in mind that the Iran sanctions have yet to come into play. That will only happen from next month. So that could be a key determinant in terms of what could be the next level of measures that the government will announce. Finance Minister, of course, has been on record during the last couple of days consistently saying that there could be further measures on the rupee as well as the CAD front. So those options, there is a constant brainstorming that's happening on those options, of course, along with consultation with the Reserve Bank of India. And the call will be taken at the Prime Minister's level. So we just have to wait and watch and see. But none of the options are being ruled out right now. And I suppose the NRI window, would be one of the important options that the government may have in mind. Remains to be seen. What will be the trigger that we'll be looking at? Will it be the crude trigger? Will it be the exchange rate trigger? Will it be a combination of both? Crude touching 88, 90 odd levels, probably. Difficult to say as of now, but all options are on the table and everything is open-ended as of now.
Okay, Sapna, thanks for that. Now, from currency to crude, oil prices are flat after the International Monetary Fund downgraded its global economic growth forecast for 2018 and 19. This has sparked concerns about oil demand going forward. So prices fell earlier, even as Hurricane Michael caused a shutdown of nearly 40% of USA's oil output from the Gulf of Mexico. So Brent at 85.01 and NYMEX at 74.93, marginally in the red. Staying with crude oil, India and Iran are yet to reach an agreement on the payment mechanism for crude imports. We had learnt and reported earlier that India has booked Iranian oil for November, defying USA's sanctions that take effect from the 4th of November. Now, government sources tell cnbc TV 18 that both nations are yet to finalize the payment mechanism. According to reports, Iran has asked for a bank guarantee from India in euros to operate the Chabbar project. But NBFC stocks jumped in trade today on SBI's announcement that it has tripled its target to buy loans from NBFCs to 45,000 crore rupees. A cnbc TV 18 exclusive news break that several banks have similar plans also boosted that very sentiment. So look at the move on NBFCs. India Bulls, DHFL, Bajaj Housing Finance up by about anywhere between 3 to about 16%. Lata Venkatesh, who has spoken to many bankers, is here with the details. Lata, why are banks preferring the loan buying route as compared to lending capital? And, more importantly, will this resolve the liquidity concerns that have gripped the NBFC sector?
This deal is a win with a capital W for the banks and a lowercase w for the NBFCs. Banks are quite clearly not willing to lend loans to NBFCs, even up to the sanctioned limits. The argument being that for every loan, they have to keep capital of 20%, which means 2 rupees for every 100 rupee loan, provided it's a AAA. If the NBFC dips in rating, then they will have to keep 7 rupees out of for a 100 rupee loan, and capital is hard to come by. Therefore, what they have posed to the NBFCs is that if you have a liquidity problem, we will buy out the entire loan, and you don't have to repay the loan. The money is yours. The money is freed. The problem is, if the problem is very acute for an NBFC, then banks are even more proactive because they don't want an NPA borrower on their books, and so they're willing to buy out a portion of the loan so that that money can be taken by the NBFC and he can redeem his CPs or debentures. Now, the debt market has not yet seen CPs of NBFCs being bought. It's too early in the day. But their belief is that in course of time, things may ease up a bit. But what could happen is if banks cherry pick and NBFCs give their best loans to the banks, going down the road, even if the temporary liquidity problem is solved, there could be a liquidity problem later on because NBFCs may be perceived to have a slightly lower quality residual loan book, and it may get that much the more difficult to raise capital. But that's a problem for a later part of the day, for maybe a year down the line. At the moment, it looks like the debt problem will defreeze. The way the stock markets have cheered, if even 1% of this cheer steeps into the debt market, it's quite possible that in a quarter or so, the worries about NBFCs not returning loans could be forgotten, and even the medium-term issue may not happen. For the moment, the bankers and debt markets believe NBFCs with a very strong conglomerate backing, corporate backing or an LIC backing, will be the ones that will come out of the problem easier, and for all you know, they will even eat up the market share of the smaller NBFCs. For smaller NBFCs who are selling their loans, liquidity will not be the issue, but growth will definitely be an issue.
Okay, fair enough. Well explained, Lata. Thanks for joining in with that. But taking this very story forward, we learned from sources that SBI has actually not bought any large loan portfolio from DHFL recently. In fact, reports that SBI has bought 5,000 to 7,000 crore rupees of DHFL loans are incorrect. Our sources have confirmed that while SBI has bought loans from DHFL in the past, there has not been any recent transaction. We also learned that SBI is at this point in time evaluating NBFC portfolio for a buyout, but no large NBFC portfolios have been bought since increasing its target for buyouts. Moving on, India's most expensive lender, Bandhan Bank, reported a strong set of earnings for the second quarter. The net profit jumped about 48%, while net interest income jumped 55% on a yearly basis. Asset quality remained largely stable. Gross NPAs showed a slight uptick at 1.3% versus 1.26% on a quarterly basis, while the net NPAs came in at 0.7%. Now, management also addressed the recent controversy around the promoter stake in the bank, saying that they will submit a plan to the Reserve Bank of India very soon. They will look to reduce shareholdings via OFS, acquisition or fundraising. Speaking of NBFCs, ILNFS's newly appointed chairman, Ola Tora Tag met Corporate Affairs Secretary Injeti Srinivas today to give him a first-hand assessment of the debt-laden NBFC. Remember, the centre had taken control of ILNFS after it roiled the markets by defaulting on its debt obligations last month. It then placed the old board with a new 6-member board under the chairmanship of veteran banker Ola Tora Tag. The new board held its first meeting last week. And there's more on ILNFS. Sources tell us that the new board led by Ola Tora Tag has made reasonable progress as far as reviewing the beleaguered infra finance company is concerned. We also learned that the NCLT has granted it immunity from future litigations. Timsy Japuria is here with the details. Timsy, take us through the measures that the board is looking to undertake to resolve the crisis at ILNFS.
Well, the new board is now empowered to induct directors in subsidiaries and JVs, and what we understand from sources is that the new ILNFS board, the decisions that will be taken by this board will be ring-fenced from any future litigation, which is a key demand of the board, and government has taken care of that. Also, equity in other companies, overseas entities was one of the major reasons behind high number of ILNFS subsidiaries which existed, because remember earlier the count was 169 and now the count has gone up to as much as 340 and above. So government feels that further efforts are needed from the board to give a complete picture of ILNFS as to what went wrong and how things can be proceeded further. Meanwhile, government also feels that to give this complete picture, an independent and specialized agency is likely to be hired by the board, which will fill in the gaps which the board is unable to assess as of now. The board is likely to rope in an independent professional for facts, which is also a fact-finding agency, to try and look into more minor details and all, so that what went wrong and how things can be put back into shape is what will get identified by this independent professional. Meanwhile, when we spoke to sources regarding the funding concerns, sources said that ILNFS requires about 100 crores a month to stay afloat to keep its working capital in place, and they haven't raised any red flag as of now on this front as to whether government should infuse some money or not. So right now they feel they are comfortable and there's no any basic concern when it comes to adding more funds to the company or for a further fund infusion. Also, government is right now still being cautious and they feel that this is a case of mismanagement. Whether ILNFS story is actually a fraud or a scam is something which cannot be ruled out till the investigative agencies such as SFIO and others, they try and give out their immediate report so that it can be assessed whether to call it a fraud, whether to call it a scam.
Okay.
Or it is just a purely mismanagement.
Okay, Timsy, thanks for joining in. With that, we will have to take a very Rafale controversy. The Supreme Court has refused to issue a notice to Prime Minister Narendra Modi in this matter. The Apex Court feels that the arguments made by the petitioner were inadequate. However, the Apex Court has directed the government to furnish the procurement details of the Rafale aircraft. Ashmit Kumar, who was in court today, is here with the details. Ashmit, a small victory for the government, it seems?
To begin with, the petition had sought the scrapping of this entire deal. It had also sought a special probe as far as this entire transaction is concerned, and had also sought for clarity from the government on the processes and the procedures followed in finalization of this deal. Now, having said that, the Apex Court held that the arguments forwarded by the petitioners are inadequate, but nonetheless, the Apex Court, while deciding not to issue a notice to the Prime Minister, has clearly stated that as far as this entire deal is concerned, it involves matters of national security, and that to satisfy their conscience, they will be seeking details from the government. Now, to clarify, the government stance was quite clear. The government clarified that this appears to be a politically motivated petition, that the idea to make the Prime Minister Modi, as a respondent in this petition, was to get mileage, was to gain political capital, that this had political ambitions, this petition, and hence on the back of that it should not be considered. And it is back on the back of these arguments by the Attorney General that the Apex Court has said that no notice shall be issued to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But having said that, the Apex Court also clarifying that it needs to satisfy its conscience, and on the back of that directing the government to clarify on the procedures that were followed and whether or not they were in compliance with the defense procedures that have been laid down. And another important caveat is that this entire issue now puts the Rafale deal on the judicial scanner. So that is something that the government will be wary of. But of course, the immediate takeaway is no notice having been issued to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Back to you.
All right, fair enough, Ashmit. Thanks for joining in with those details. That's the big court story of the day. But here's a corporate exclusive. AirAsia India is all set to undergo a leadership churn very soon. We learned from sources that S. Ramudurai, who is currently the chairman of AirAsia India and Tata Sons president, is likely to step down. Now, Tata Sons president Banmali Agarwal may be appointed as the new chairman of the company. Now, that's not all. We also understand that Tony Fernandes, who is the current chief of AirAsia India, is likely to step down, and Tata Steel veteran Sunil Bhaskaran is set to be appointed as a key management role. He could be appointed as the CEO. Now, what we understand is that the larger strategy here is that Tata Sons wants to ensure that under the leadership of Banmali Agarwal, who also heads the entire defence and aerospace vertical for Tata Sons, they want to ensure that the entire leadership is reshuffled. They want to create a complete overhaul of the leadership and the strategy going forward. So Tata Sons is going to be directly overseeing the changes that are likely in the next couple of months, and a board reshuffle is also likely to be on the cards going forward. This, we understand, has been discussed and confirmed in a board meeting held by AirAsia India today. Moving on, staying up in the clouds, there could be some relief for the struggling aviation industry. People in the know tell CNBC TV 18 that an excise duty cut of 1,500 rupees per kiloliters on turbine fuel has been approved. So how big a relief is this for the industry? Remember, the current price of ATF is 74,567 rupees per kiloliters. An ATF cut of 1,500 rupees per kiloliters would mean a relief of 2% for airlines. However, the aviation industry is seeking that the rate be cut from 14% to 8% instead. Car makers have decided to encash festivities in a big way. A dealer survey conducted in 4 cities reveals that several car makers are offering discounts of up to 15 to 20% to lure consumers. Tata and Hyundai are offering discounts of up to 1 lakh rupees in select models. What other car makers are likely to give in discounts? We have Utkarsh Chaturvedi, who has been tracking that story, and he's here with the details. Utkarsh, run us through the details of our survey. You know, we had already reported that Maruti is offering discounts on flagship products. What are the other companies that have joined this queue?
So, Kritika, when you speak about a festive season, discounts are usual. But there are 2 things which are unusual in this festive season. Now, the first one is that the amount of discounts which are being offered on products this year are 5 to 8% higher than the rest of the festive seasons. And what is more important is that top-selling models of the car companies are also under the ambit of discounts. Now, if you look at Maruti, we had reported, as you said last month also, that the flagship models are under the ambit of discounts. But what has happened now is that the discounts have increased. So if you look at the Swift, for instance, it has a discount of around 45,000. The Desire has a discount of around 50,000. And in areas, they're also giving out gold coins of 2 grams. In fact, WagonR continues to be in the ambit of high discounts, so around 55,000 discount there. Now let's talk about the number 2 car maker, Hyundai. Hyundai has a history of giving high discounts in festive season, and it continues. If you look at the Accent, the discounts are as high as 90,000 rupees. But what is more interesting is the Hyundai Tucson, which is competing with the XUV 500, has a discount of 1.3 lakh on the vehicle. Speaking about Tata Motors has had a steady rise when it comes to market share, volume, and there were no big discounts on the Tigor, on the Nexon. But now what you're seeing is that discounts have come in. So all of these 3 cars, Tigor, Nexon, and Tiago, have discounts of around 40 to 50,000. Hexa, which is an MUV, has a discount of around 1 lakh. Lastly, speaking about Renault. Now, Renault is having a hard time when it comes to maintaining their market share, and that is visible in the level of discounting as well. The Renault Captur has a discount of around 2 lakh on its vehicles. Even the Duster is available with a 1 lakh discount. So, if you look at the whole discounting pattern and the way discounts are available on cars, it gives you a picture of the demand scenario on ground. And at this point of time, what the car makers are really doing is to make the most of the festive season. Discounts and higher discounts have creeped in the market.
Okay, well, Utkarsh, if I didn't know that you had a car, I would have asked if you're in the market to buy one. But thanks for joining in with that. More from the auto space. Tata Motors has launched its next generation compact sedan, the all-new Tata Tigor facelifted India. The car competes with the likes of newly launched Ford Aspire and Maruti Suzuki Desire, and has a starting price of 5.2 lakh rupees for the petrol variant and goes all the way up to 7.38 lakh rupees for the diesel version.
We are extremely positive, not because of the growth story in the last 2 quarters or the last 36 months. We are even more positive because we got all our new launches in order to excite the market, in order to excite the customers right before the festive season. If the coming 4 weeks are not going to teach us a complete different lesson, we should get back on track as an industry. And let's stay positive, because the last thing the industry needs, that we talk ourselves into a crisis just because we had 1 weak quarter. And I think you can also lead to a self-fulfilling prophecy to say, oh, we are in a crisis, it's all difficult. Let's actually stay positive.
That's the next big bet that Tata Motors is making. But on to another big story of the day. With the tariff war only intensifying, China has asked for India's cooperation to stand up to what it calls US bullying. A spokesperson of the Chinese embassy in New Delhi delivered this message and also asked the United States to stop interfering in the relationship between India and China. What they have told India very clearly is that they are looking at deepening cooperation between China and India, and it is necessary to stand up against the bullying of countries like US. China has also communicated that US has provoked trade disputes across the board and across countries, and a cooperation between China and India can thereby lead to a win-win situation. Not just that, they've also said that the US should stop interfering in the relationships that China and India has, and they must cushion themselves from any kind of interference or issues that may or may not arise from the United States. So that is another big story. We will have Parikshit Luthra get us details through the day. But for now, we will have to wrap up this edition of After the Bell. Thanks for watching the show. Stay tuned. Markets Today Talk Back will take you through all the market action of the day and get you trade ready for tomorrow. On the other side, don't go anywhere.